Okay, so we can, want to do the call to order?
Sure.
Yeah.
Tyler?
Here.
Jeff?
Yep.
John?
Here.
Deb? And Andrew?
Here.
All here?
All right, is there approval of the agenda?
So moved. Second.
Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Item number 4 on the agenda, the first item up for discussion, it's a general COVID-19 pandemic discussion that includes about 5 separate topics. We'll be just kind of having a general discussion here, and then there could be some action in the next agenda item as far as approving resolutions, etc. And some of this, we've got some people in the room here, safe and socially distanced, I guess. Hopefully we can hear this all right with the microphone. I think I have to speak up, don't I?
She gave you the thumbs up.
You can hear okay, Carrie? Okay. So the first item is grading and credit acquisition for this spring, this kind of interrupted session. And I saw you sent out a document. Yep. Is there, I read through it and I thought it was very straightforward, easy to understand. I don't know. Do you want to just open it for questions? Would you like to talk a little bit about it first? Or?
I can just say a couple things. Our guiding principles really are what kind of got us rolling on this, and what we want to do is create a fair and equitable system that benefits all students. And then the number 2 thing is we really want to make sure that what we're doing isn't going to harm kids because of the lack of opportunity once the closure occurred. So we wanted to create a system that would benefit our top-end students, our middle-of-the-road students, and our students that maybe struggle a little bit to earn some credits. So we looked at basically 3 options. That was after much deliberation and much discussion and much conversations with principals all over the state of Iowa. We've been very fortunate to be connected with a great group in the Hoyak and the Raccoon River now, so schools that are very similar to our size, and then schools that are going into the conference that we're going into. So we get a great feel of what a lot of different schools are doing. And many of the schools are looking at these very same options. So the first option gives students the opportunity, if they're happy with their grade, take their grade. And it will impact their GPA then, because they're taking a letter grade. Once you take a letter grade, that is going to be assigned towards your GPA. So our top students can still have that high GPA. In the second option, we've got probably a group of students that weren't real happy with their grade when the closure occurred, and they need an opportunity to do a little remediation based on knowledge and information that was taught prior to the closure. So there could be some reassessment. There could be some, reworking on some of the assignments and things, maybe turning in some missing work that was assigned prior to the closure, giving students the opportunity to show mastery on those areas and get their grades up, because we don't want to stick them with a grade that they had no opportunity to improve on. So there could be some kids marginally that would be able to get those grades up to a little bit better, and then have that opportunity to then take that letter grade. And then the third option would be, there are going to be students that just don't have the support at home. They don't have the maybe the skills to do some of those things by themselves. They need a little more guidance. They could have some special needs. They could have some ELL concerns. That a pass, fail, or incomplete option is then the best option for them. So as long as they're passing, they could take a passing grade, which would indicate a pass, earning the credit for the class, and then that would not be recorded toward their GPA. Because maybe they needed a little more hands-on, they needed more instruction in order to raise that grade, or they just don't have the situation at home that is going to be there to encourage them to continue to do well. They would take the pass and be issued nothing toward their GPA, but would be given the credit toward graduation requirements. So that was really the kind of the 3 options. And then we kind of laid out a little timetable, and then we tried to lay out some frequently asked questions that parents might come up with, or that would help guide you guys in a direction so you understood kind of some of the things. We did look at that pass-fail system. That pass-fail system is going to be widely used across the country. It's currently being used by our regent universities, our community colleges. We reached out to all of our regent schools. They don't see any problem with taking passes because they feel that this is just such a unique situation, and they're going to have people applying from all over the country that are in unique situations with passes. So they do not feel like that is going to be held against students in their application or their scholarship portions as they apply for scholarships or their admittance into school. We did also check in with the NCAA clearinghouse because we wanted to make sure that we weren't damaging kids that might be athletically gifted and they have to meet the requirements of the NCAA clearinghouse in order to be eligible. The NCAA clearinghouse has posted a great response to this. They are also going to be very flexible with this semester, knowing that there is just going to be issues. The major universities are even looking at doing a 7-semester system for GPA, where they basically take out the spring of 2020. So if you're looking at cumulative GPA, they would look at 7 semesters if you were in a situation that where the closure affected your GPA and things. So I think they're being very flexible with how they're looking at things. And what we wanted to do is be able to be very flexible with our students, and those that could strive to get a little better grade and continue to master some of those skills that maybe they didn't have quite when they left, they can do that. Those that are happy with their grades and have shown great levels of proficiency, they would take that grade. And then those that were struggling a little bit could work toward getting their grade up, or they could take a pass and still have that credit and not be falling behind. Now, we do know that there will be a portion of kids that just aren't going to be able to get that grade up to a passing level. What we would suggest is that those students would be given an incomplete. So we would work our tails off between now and when school is closed, officially at the end of the year, to get them up to passing. We would be working our tails off, calling them and doing everything we can. Our teachers have already been doing that for 3 weeks, working to try to get these kids that are failing, because we have the opportunity to do that through a credit recovery system. We would do everything we can to get them up to passing, but there's going to be some that just aren't going to do it. We would give them an incomplete, and we would continue to work with them all summer to try to get that up to a passing grade, which is similar to what we've done in the past. Now, just to give you a frame of reference, typically we have roughly 505 students, 6 to 7 classes each, over 3,000 grades that we would issue in a normal semester. We typically have anywhere from 5 to 10 failures a semester. So we do very well at getting kids to the passing mark. We do a very good job of getting kids to earn credits. And so those that maybe fall into that situation could get these incompletes. That would extend that in through the summer and sit there as an incomplete. And actually that incomplete can stay there as long as we want it to. But we could set a deadline, and if they don't have it taken care of by then we would have to look at issuing a withdrawal or a fail, and they would have to look at retaking some courses. But I really believe that it would be a very small percentage of kids, as it normally is. As you know, you can drag them right up to the edge of the water, and some of them just aren't going to drink. So thank goodness that the percentage of that is very small. But in this unique situation, it could be higher than what we're normally used to, because if I had Johnny in front of me every day, I could keep pushing him, working with him, and call him into Success Center. And now Johnny might be doing some construction, taking care of kids, and grades just aren't on his mind. So for the marginal student, that pass-fail system is pretty vital to keep them working toward meeting graduation requirements. Does anybody have any questions?
So you're talking about 5 weeks left in the calendar year, is that about right?
Yes, sir. It'd be a hustle. I mean, we'd have to really work
Well,
hard.
I think you've given an opportunity for the school to do the right thing.
Yeah, I think it's.
Yeah, I do too.
I think it's a good system. I really do. I believe in it. Schools like Carlisle are using this system. North Polk is looking at a system like this. Some schools that are highly respected in our state are looking at these same exact things. Now, there are some schools that are just doing strictly pass-fail, but I feel like that's a little bit motivating for everyone if you do a pass-fail system. There are some kids that are going to want to continue to do some things and maybe get some of those things up that they didn't have a chance to finish up. We have some kids that were gone due to illness right before break and missed tests. That would give them an opportunity to go back and reassess and do some of those things on that previous knowledge, and then work toward getting the grade that they truly do deserve, although we are in a weird situation where the closure occurred. This way, everyone can stay on track to graduate. We're not, needing to have multiple sections of classes that we just don't have the FTE to fill. And I think it's a good way to keep every level of learner engaged.
And this is by, again, everything there by class. So you can pick and choose whatever
Yes.
class you want.
So what we would
option
do
you
is
want.
we would send a form out to the students. After we get some feedback from our board here, we would get this out to parents, kind of see our timetable there, and then students would be, with their parents, would be choosing class by class. They could go class by class. Now, the only thing that this wouldn't apply to is our college courses, because those are issued by Iowa State and DMAC. They're not issued by us. But Iowa State and DMAC are doing pass-fail or letter grade options. So it's a very similar system. At the end of the DMAC course, the DMAC English, the kid's going to take a letter grade or they're going to take pass-fail. It's up to them. So we're adapting the no-harm system that the universities and the community colleges are also using.
Vic, in the spot here where it says students who have not responded to the form by May 8th will be contacted, whatever. Failure to select an option will result in the grade being posted. I'm just trying to make sure I read that right. Does that
Yeah.
mean like the grade they had
Yep.
at spring break,
It would
like
post-
option
It
one?
would be posted.
It would be, that's like saying option one.
Correct.
Okay.
That's basically like saying they're taking option one. Now, understand, we would also have a list of those kids, and we would be hounding parents, and
Right.
we'd be making phone calls and
Sure.
doing everything we can to chase down every single kid. And that's, what we've really been working very hard at for the last 3 weeks is to make contact with every single kid and make sure every single kid is staying engaged. So that's what we would end up doing. I think a statement like that in there is necessary to get parents to understand that they need to take care of this and students need to take care of this.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
I feel like once this gets in the hands of kids, we'll have about 80% of our kids within that time frame right away. And we'll be really looking to really hunt down 20% of the kids.
Good deal. Any questions that you guys have for Vic?
No, I like the 3 options as well. I think that's covers the bases. Is there a need in option 1 and then also in option 2 to be very specific? When I read this afternoon, it says take your current letter grade. I'm going effective when? Effective
Yep.
March 13th.
Yep.
Just to be crystal clear what
Yes,
you
sir.
mean there. And so they might consider that for option 1 and option 2, that's what you mean when you say current grade,
Yep.
as of whatever date that was.
That can be easy to be added.
Yeah. Makes sense. Anybody else?
Sounds good. I like that, Vic, you in the end too.
Do we need a motion to accept this?
I don't think we do. I don't believe this up for, but I think it was really important that we sit here and as a board, I think, listen and that we're all in agreement and support for the work of this. I appreciate it too. I think that it's communicated in a very clear way. And it's thorough and it tries to take everybody's unique situations into consideration.
And there are unique situations. I mean, it's surprising the number of family situations we discuss with kids on a daily basis. Mom and dad are both at home and there's 3 little ones and they're taking care of the 3 little ones. And
Yeah.
there are unique situations that are now have arisen due to this current situation we're in. And I think it does take into account those that have the ability to do well, will still do well. And those that don't, there is a buffer there to help support them. And I think that's a good thing. So.
And I think you guys more than anybody understand those unique situations because you're on the front lines with that. So definitely appreciate you sharing that. Any other discussion? I think we can move on to B, which is graduation. Here we go. Here we go.
And I think this
Step 2.
This is an important topic to discuss, not only from a standpoint is that the board needs to be informed of what some plans are, but I think the board also needs to be part of this as there are some safety concerns and things that they have to consider when they're have an overview of the district. So really, what we're looking at is a variety of options, and the state is all over the place with graduation options. And I'm just going to go through a few things, and I'm going to explain my thinking, and then I want to lay out what I think is a very good option for us. And I appreciate the board entrusting me to make these decisions, but like I said, with the safety concerns related to the pandemic, I think there are some things that I would like you to think about and ask questions about, because I think you have to think the big picture also related to the situation.
Vic, I don't have any documents.
There is
for
no
this.
document for
Okay.
this. No, because I started writing out, it was just a little complicated.
That's fine.
And I've actually, I'll get to that in a second. So I'll just talk through this a little bit and then you guys can kind of ask any questions. So really there are a variety of options. With the school closure that just occurred this last Friday, that pretty much did in a live ceremony for May. So we're not going to be able to gather with a large group of people in May in person like we traditionally would on a normal year for graduation. So then that leaves us a variety of options for May, June, and into July. Okay, and I'm going to lay out what some other schools are doing, and I'm going to lay out what my thoughts are the best options. Okay, there are schools that are considering virtual graduations. They are having it all online. You sit in your living room, you sit through the ceremony and you get your diploma in the mail. That is an option. You could gather people that way. You could have an entire ceremony of me sitting in a room with Cindy and Deb and Mr. Beecher, and they could watch it on the computer screen. To me, that's a little impersonal. They're getting their diplomas in the mail at the end. Okay? That can occur at any point from this point on because it meets all the social distancing regulations. Okay? An option would be to move a live ceremony to June or move a live ceremony to July. So we try to schedule a live ceremony for June. We try to schedule a live ceremony for July. I think it's pretty clear that June is really not an option. I can't see how any way, shape, or form we could get 1,000 people into a gym in June safely. I'm pretty confident that our social distancing regulations are not going to be lifted by June. They may not be lifted into July. So now we have some options of that virtual thing I was just telling you about. We could schedule something for June, see what happens, do a virtual ceremony or something in June. We could try to schedule something for July. The problem is once you start moving to June and July, you actually start losing students. You lose any students that are going to the military. You lose any students that are going away early to college. You start losing students that may have commitments to jobs and they're moving out of state. So our goal and our guiding principle was we want to have a ceremony where all students can be involved because they deserve that. And I feel very strongly about that. I think the second thing that we need to consider is we need to consider the safety element here. Because there are social distancing guidelines. This is a very serious situation that we're in. You know, hundreds and hundreds of people are dying every day across the country. Thousands of people are dying across the country. And we want to make sure that we're doing things that are safe. So, another alternative, if you move that to July, understand you're throwing all your eggs into one basket. Okay? You could say we could try to have a live ceremony in July, but then if social distancing things don't work, you have no more options. You've now lost a portion of your kids that can't be part of the ceremony, and your only option at that point is a virtual ceremony. Okay? Now, I'm going to propose a drive-up social distancing ceremony. Could that be moved to July? Possibly, but if restrictions change, and now I've thrown all my eggs into a basket into July, I've gambled away one of the most vital events to our seniors. And I don't feel comfortable doing that. I don't feel comfortable throwing all my eggs into one basket and say, I hope this works out. When there are great reasonable options that we can consider in our current reality where we know the situation at the current moment. I did move prom to July, but I feel differently about prom. I feel like if you had to cancel prom, that is not the same as canceling graduation. You can move a dance off the schedule, but taking away that last moment opportunity for kids to have an actual diploma ceremony with their class, we lose that moving into July. So my suggestion would be that we keep our May date that we currently have, and we do a social distancing ceremony. And I'm going to explain what that looks like. With our social distancing ceremony, we can maintain and keep all of the major components of graduation while respecting social distancing rules. Parents sent me the other day, can't we just have it at the stadium and spread the kids out and then all the parents will just sit in the stands? You can't do that because you can't gather 10 or more people in a gathering, so you can't even do that. So I'm going to suggest an opportunity that keeps within the social distancing guidelines, and it is approved by Story County Public Health. We've had an opportunity to check with them. I've had an opportunity to run this by a couple medical professionals to get their thoughts on if it meets social distancing. And here's what I would suggest. Outside of the front of the school, we would put the stage up near the main entry where the horseshoe drive is. We would have our students and their parents in their cars. And we would run our ceremony from our parking lot right there. We would live stream it to their cars. We would live stream it to the parents. We would live stream it to those that could not be involved. And we could keep every single component of graduation as long as we meet that under 10 people outside of their cars at all times. So the ceremony goes on as if it is. All of our students are in their parking lots. They're lined up in order because we have to have a numerical order for them to get into line to get their diplomas. So we would have all that prearranged. So the parents and the students would be in their cars. I would be up on the stage. We would start graduation. We would live broadcast it. We've also looked at an opportunity to have a local radio station broadcast it. Have had several conversations with a local radio station that would love to do a live broadcast. They could listen to the broadcast right on their radios in their car. So what we would do is we would run through the whole entire ceremony. I would be able to get up on stage, do all the introductions. They would be sitting in their car. The parking lot is wired, so they're watching me as if this is a live event. I would go through my spiel. When it came time for the senior to give their speech, because that's a very important part, the senior would get out of their car, walk up onto the stage, because we're still meeting social distancing guidelines of having less than 10 people outside of their car. Their peers could watch them give that speech live instead of watching a pre-recorded event. The other senior would come up. The same thing would occur. As long as we're coordinating it when they're coming in and out of cars and we're keeping less than 10 people out, we can keep this really great ceremony. When it's time to applause, we can honk our horns, we can shoot air horns off in the air. We can do all kinds of things to acknowledge this really cool event because we wouldn't be able to all be sitting right next to each other, but we're all taking part of this communal event. All this would go on. We would give out awards. We would do all the things that we normally do, and eventually we would get to the portion where it's time to get their diplomas. In a coordinated fashion, they would line up down the snake drive and come up to the stage. They would pull up, get out of the passenger seat. We still keep our numbers one at a time. They walk up onto the stage as if they would normally in a normal graduation. They would get their diploma, get their picture taken, have their diploma right there on the stage for them. They would step off the stage. There would be a backdrop set up. They could hold their diploma in their cap and gown and get a nice photo by Debbie Gray. Their parent would have pulled up. They get in the car, pull into the west parking lot, and wait in their assigned spot while we funnel all of the students through. Because there's a live broadcast going on, they're hearing their names read. They're hearing all the parts that would take part in a graduation ceremony. And at the end, we present the class of 2020, and we all honk our horns because we can't throw our caps up and we can't all be outside of our cars at the same time. We're making the best of a lousy situation, but we're doing a communal event that isn't on TV where we're all sitting in our living rooms and ending up with a diploma in the mail. So that was what I would suggest. Now, how is this affected by rain? It isn't, because you are in your cars. I would have to get a canopy, and maybe I would need to stand under a canopy. I might get a little wet when I'm ushering kids up to the stage. Deb or Lindsay might while they're, underneath the canopy, but probably not.
Hey, I'm the only one that has hair issues.
Yeah, so
I think
regardless, rain or shine, as long as it's not hurricane force winds out there, we can be underneath the canopy and we can keep this really great ceremony. Now, we can decorate the parking lot. We can decorate their parking spots. They can come in and decorate their spots where their cars are parking. They can decorate their cars. We could have form a parent committee and do some parades and do some other fun things that could make this into a really great event. And the best part about it is, it's a communal event with all of our seniors that can take place. And we're not leaving anybody out. Everyone gets to be involved. Once we start moving things into June and July, now we're saying, I'm sorry, you just don't get to be involved in graduation because of your situation. If we can avoid that and avoid that heartbreak of parents, I think our kids that are going to the military deserve having a great ceremony as much as the kids that aren't going to the military. I think those that have to leave for internships should get that same experience. Is it ideal? No, it isn't. This isn't an ideal situation. But I think it has many of the same components that are important. Now, could we just do individual ceremonies for 112 kids where we run one kid in at a time and they just get their picture on the stage? Sure, we can do that. We can absolutely do that. But you're losing that communal event. You're losing that speakers. You're losing all the important parts of graduation. And if the weather happens to be beautiful that day, what an awesome event it's going to be. Now, do I wish everybody could get out of their cars and we could all be sitting together? Yes, I do. But that's just not the reality we're currently living in. So those are some things to think about. What questions do you have, and do you have any direction related to the safety issues?
Well, I like the idea, Vic. I think you're right on with what I was thinking would be a great approach. So I applaud you in your idea thinking there. So I think it's a great approach.
I'm going to design some kind of a cap that fits on top of a car. Come on. People. You can still write your name on the top, right? A huge tassel.
Now, what would have to happen also is that there's a lot of communication that needs to take place with this, because there's a lot of moving parts when you don't have access to kids. Usually we have access to kids when we bring them in, and we practice, and we do a lot of things. So there's lots of moving parts and things that would have to take place, but I feel like we can do it, and we can reach out to people that can help. There's people that want to help. And when I called that radio station, the lady was so excited. Like, she wants to help.
I don't know that it's critical, but I always thought that it's neat that the choir sings and the band plays.
Well, I'm
So
glad
any
you
thoughts
mentioned,
there?
I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah.
It just so happens to be that we have all kinds of recorded stuff from contests this year. So I've already talked with Byron and Karen, and they are both working on how they could either put some things together that kids are playing at home, or take some things that those kids have already played that they used for contests and incorporate those into the ceremony. Now, obviously, we can't get the kids out to play, but it would actually be music that they played and used for a contest. So it's their music.
Yeah,
And
you could be flipping the pictures of all the different band members, why the song's playing,
You
you
could
know.
do, it's up to your imagination what you do.
Yeah.
Byron could get up there and even talk a little bit about the song and about how they did, and so could Karen. And so you keep the music, you keep the walk, you keep the acknowledgement of kids, you do all the things, you keep the communal event, or you can gamble. And I just don't know, with this changing situation, if it is the most responsible thing to do is to take a gamble on one of the most important events in high school. Now, I feel differently about prom. Prom's a dance, it is an important event, but it's not like graduation. So, you know,
There's really not a workaround for prom, I mean.
there is no workaround, you just keep setting it back and you keep setting it
Yeah,
back.
virtual problem.
John, to be-
Hey guys
John,
and
to be
girls 6
perfectly-
feet apart.
To be
Yeah.
perfectly honest with you, most high schools have canceled.
Right.
They're not even gonna try to reschedule.
Yeah.
You
What
know,
are most high schools doing on graduation?
It's all over the board.
Yeah.
Jeff, you should see it, like, people are scrambling, they don't know what to do. There are some that are setting even dates all the way back to August.
No, I don't think that's right.
You know,
I think we
the
go with
further-
something like.
The further you get out.
Yeah, I think you keep that same date, Vic. I think
Yeah.
you're right on, spot on with keeping the same date. The only thing we could potentially have is if the weather is really lousy, you know, we use the inside part of the cafeteria to be at least, you get out of the weather to get the pictures and the diploma. I mean, that's a horrible day. You know,
It would have to be.
40-mile-an-hour winds, you know, it just can't happen. But it would just be okay, here's the standby, and then the difference of that is you just, you know, pull people up as close to the doors as you could get, and then you know,
Yes.
we could walk them out the back doors and have some kind of way they could work that, you know, so that you could keep it flowing. But
And
that
I'll
would be
fully
about the
acknowledge
only
this.
thing.
I know this isn't what people want. You know, I know that this isn't what their dream was, or their thoughts of how their sons or daughters' high schools would end, but
Yeah.
we're under, you know, this has never happened in the history of education. You know, the only time that graduations have been canceled, I've been doing a little research, is when a school shooting has happened, they've had to shut schools down
Yeah.
due to safety concerns.
And it's a great effort. I mean, it's, the idea is we're doing what we can do, and I think I'd give you an A for effort. I mean, I think we can make it work.
You think you got the people to pull this off?
Well, yeah, I think we do. You know, I met with Jason yesterday. He's working very hard on the technology piece. I'm working with the radio lady, but if it doesn't work, we can always get an FM transmitter that they can hear it, like similar to what people do with their Christmas lights and things. The video person, I met with Troy Stout and Trent Becker. They're willing to do the videotaping and actually doing some commentary between kids and things to keep the ceremony moving. You know, the technology piece is big. You know, we've got to get that taken care of, and I feel very confident after having conversations with Jason that we can make this happen. There are lots of moving parts and lots of planning. I did write a letter to seniors and their parents explaining this, if this is the direction the board wants to go. We did create a video So you can hear me explaining this because reading it's one thing, but then hearing me standing out in the parking lot and pointing and showing, I think it's a good sell when they see it. If you're just here drive-up ceremony, you're going to poo-poo it. You're going to automatically say, I don't want that. Because you're thinking, come on, get the diploma and drive away. But it's so much more than that. It can be so much more.
When did you send the letter out?
I haven't because we want to wait for feedback because if this is a direction the board does not want to go, then I don't want to sell a bill of goods that I can't deliver.
Nick,
Yeah.
you have my support for it. A couple of things. I think that there's probably some folks, and I know we are thinking about possibly doing some opening or some loosening, but the idea that we would go from where we are now to 1,000 people in a room is probably just completely unrealistic to me. That's my belief. That's how I'm confident in that. So I think it's the right thing to do to socially distance. I can't pretend my son is not a senior, and so I'm not trying to imagine what those families are thinking and what those parents might be thinking. But one thing that I really like about this idea is the fact is the class of 2020 is so unique and so different from any that we've had. So own that. Own that. This is theirs. Nobody else has ever had a graduation like this.
There's your speech.
Well, and I mean, let's do what we can to, and I want to do whatever I can to help make that
And
true
I
for
was,
them.
with the moving parts, it's going to take, it's going to take a little bit of time that we just
Yeah.
make sure we're always falling within those 10.
Yeah.
And we did due diligence by reaching out to Story County Public Health because
Yeah.
if they thought it was a poor idea or violating social distancing, we can't even do this option.
Right.
So I think there are some components here that keep it a really special event. Is it a different event? Yes, absolutely.
Let's
Would
own
we
it.
like to
Let's
be in the
be
gym?
different.
Yes, but
I got a couple comments quick, and you and I have talked a lot on
You need
this,
to
but,
notice.
I think it's awesome. I think it's a great idea. I think it's great. It is gonna be a lot of work. Normal graduations work, this is gonna be 10 times the amount of work, just with the coordination, the cars, the who's parking where, what we're gonna do, how are we gonna get through this? And I don't think that should all fall on your shoulders. So I think you and I have talked, I think there needs to be some sort of separate graduation committee that you get the vision and some of the overall, and then let it run with everything else. Because I just don't want, once you start digging into this, it's gonna take up all of your time.
yeah.
We got other things that are going on.
My goal would be to create a parent committee because parents want to be involved and they want to help and they've got special talents.
Yeah.
And why not let them run loose? I'll take care of planning the ceremony. There might be some parts I need some help with through people that have great connections, but I totally agree. I think, we've got wonderful feedback. If you didn't get a chance to see the parade, what an event. Like how cool was that? 90-some cars. There's no reason we couldn't incorporate a senior parade. There's no reason we couldn't incorporate a senior spotlight. There's so many cool things, and let our parents help drive some of that with the extras and make it a special moment for those seniors.
Decorate the town. I just think.
I think
Yeah.
it'd be great. I think there's some cool components.
Yeah.
Are there going to be people that think this is a terrible idea? I'm sure there are. But I'm just not comfortable with gambling on something I may not be able to deliver in July.
The only issue to the Board of Health, they were all for it. The only thing they had comments on was about the actual diploma. They wanted to make sure if there was going to be a handing of diploma, obviously no handshakes, wearing masks, anybody that's around that. So other than that, that was the only issue that they had, and I sent that information to Dick. So all that they thought it was a great idea. They were all on board with it. So
And I think if you put on their rear view mirrors, every kid has a number, then all the people in the cars know. Here's where we're at.
Oh, yeah, for your
So
program.
if you just have the numbers of,
And-
hey, and you put them in big black numbers that everybody can see,
I mean,
takes a lot of the hassle out of figuring out the car lineup. People can look at
and they
them.
come up a few days early and they
Right.
decorate their spot and they have some
Yeah.
fun with that.
Yeah.
Like even think about it, as you're driving up, I get out of the car's pulling up, you're watching your son or daughter just 10 feet away getting their diploma. That's better than you have you'd have in the gym.
That's true.
So there's some really cool components here that can be incorporated. And if I'm way off base, tell me, that's why I think this forum is important. I didn't get a ton of student feedback on this because I feel like there are just things that students aren't going to understand, like the safety aspects. They're going to want to do things where maybe we just can't do that. We just can't do that. I think when safety is a factor, we have to take some of those things out of their hands when we make those big decisions.
Did you have anything else?
No, the only thing I think I said, safety is number one, and number two is just keep as much as we can close as possible to how it was before, which you are obviously doing. The same components, if we can keep whatever we can, we can, incorporate that within the ceremony, then awesome.
So I appreciate too that you've gone through all the options, and I think, just like we always talk about, make sure that you communicate that. This isn't just, oh, we decide we're gonna do this. We've gone through them all. From my seat, science would say, you're absolutely right, do it in May, because June and July, it's probably not gonna be any different. We're certainly not gonna be at 1,000 people. So it's not gonna be in the gym. People need to understand, it's not gonna be in the gym. Science would say we're not gonna be there, unfortunately. Yeah, right.
Right,
I mean, that's
is that
another
true?
discussion this fall. So I believe you're making the right decision in May, and I love that you're doing as much as you can to make it as real as possible. And I hope that I don't know that we don't vote on it, but I hope that you just take the confidence from this room and say, now let's go do it. So there's no looking back, this is what we're gonna do. We've all said, yep, that's what we want. Because there will be some pushback, but hey, you've thought through a lot of options, and I fully agree with, let's just do it in May, because it's not gonna be any better in June and July.
And the thing that we need to consider is I need to consider 100% of the graduates. I know that there will be pushbacks from individuals, and that's okay. They can ask questions, and I will respectfully answer them in the best way possible. I'm not going to make everybody happy, but I rarely ever do. So if I ever get 100% consensus on anything, that would be an outstanding day. So I feel comfortable with moving forward with it. I think it was important that we have the discussion because there are some safety concerns that put you into play here, because I think you have to overall look at the district as a whole, and if we have a ceremony where people get sick, we're ultimately responsible. If we bring 1,000 people into the gym.
Yeah, but you can't, so you
So
can't
we're not
think of
gonna, so let's
Yeah.
go forward.
Okay.
Good job.
Thank you. Okay. Looks like C is the 2021 calendar.
Right, Governor Reynolds, I think it was a week ago tomorrow, made the ruling that we wouldn't be coming back. She also, in her statement, indicated that there could be an adjustment to the start date. The 23rd, which I believe, I don't have the calendar in front of me, I believe falls on a Sunday. What she said was you can go ahead and they would waive that situation. Just like Vic was talking about, there's a lot of different groups that are out there. And when we look at that, we've had Zoom meetings with the Story County, Raccoon River Conference, and the AEA superintendents about what people are looking at doing. We have to, by July 1, give something that's called the Return to Learn template. We have to fill that out, kind of like our continuous learning that we had to fill out whether we were going to go voluntary or required. Some of the things that I'm hearing from the different superintendents, whether that be our local group or the AEA or even our conference, is the fact of some of the issues of, do we make a change in our calendar right now? The calendar's right up there. You can kind of see where things are at and what would be happening. I would tell you that what a lot of schools are looking at right now, and we talked about this as far as what's June and July going to look like. Will we have the capabilities of doing something that would be summer school related? That's where a lot of schools are looking at to try to put a remediation back into some of the things that the kids would have missed. The other thing that people are looking at is, are we going to still be battling COVID-19 in August? And that's, no one knows. And then I've had people shoot me information about, well, it'll resurge or come back in the flu season, so you could be back in that in the January, February timeframe. I guess what I'm looking at as I look at this is, I think that the majority of the people right now, if we surveyed, we're probably looking at keeping their calendar the same. They were looking at that because of the fact of they like to get back to some semblance of normalcy. This is out. People know where it's at. There's the situation where we have like Infinite Campus coming in, our whole new student management system. We have training that's set up. Not to say that we couldn't change that, but that would be something. We have our PD as far as some of the different people that are coming in set up. The thing that I look at is that there's a couple different things that you don't know. You don't know if you're going to be battling COVID at the beginning of August or when we're coming back. If we are, I know some people say, well, add days. Well, if you add days, then you're just adding more of an issue. There's some people that say, well, why don't you go ahead and add days and then you can take some breaks off in between. That could be a possibility. I think the majority of the people that I've been Zooming with are looking at taking the situation, keeping their calendar the way it is, trying to do something for remediation during the summer. And I don't know that that can happen. None of us do.
Probably not.
Yeah, probably not. Whoever said that is probably true. And I know that there's different ideas that are out there. I'm not trying to poo-poo those. But if we would want to change this calendar, what we would have to do, I believe, did we talk about this, Gail? We'd have to go a public hearing, right? And it's just like any time you put a calendar out there. What I would recommend right now, and there's things that we have to fill out, and you heard me say about the return to learn template. We've talked about that administratively, and I don't know what that's going to look like yet. It's not even out. But I know that there's going to be some of these things that they're going to talk about. Right now, like I said, the majority of the people that I've been talking to have looked at trying to keep our calendar, or their calendars where it's at, because they don't know what's going to happen. None of us do. Like I said, I'm not trying to poo-poo the earlier start date. My recommendation would be that we go with what we have right now.
Can you go back to the statement on July 1st? What was that deadline?
It's called a return to learn.
Yep.
And so what you have to do is there's a template, Tyler, that they'll have, and we have to fill it out, and that's talking about how we return to, let's say, August, what that will look like. I don't know. Administrators, have you guys seen anything out there that's on that yet?
It won't be out for, they said at least a week and a half. I mean, the DE is in the process of developing it, and part of their developing process is a pretty strong vetting part of that, and I think it's probably in the vetting process, hopefully by now, but we're not going to see it for another week. But part of that return to learn will have a few different components. It will have the components of what is the returning, we're going to have a social emotional piece and the learning piece. And that will be for both students and for staff.
And does that assume, like, return to, I imagine in July 1st, we might not even know yet what August would look like. So
Correct.
Is that like, this is our plan if we're able to meet in person, this is our plan if we're e-learning?
The thing that I would be concerned about, we talked about this, July 1st is, in my opinion, if we're looking at doing something for remediation, that's pretty late. I would hope that we would have a plan ready to go, and if they gave us the green light to start to bring people back, and I don't know that they will or won't, but at least we would have something set up that would be summer school related or something like that, so that if, let's say that one of your kids would have the situation, Deb, where they're missing out on some area. We've talked, I've already, and I think Gail, I was coming in, I talked to Gail about some options, and she listened to, was it ISFAS today? So there's a lot of options that are out there that funding would be available if we would want to look at that. Now that's not an easy task. But the point of it is what it would do is it would allow us to do some remediation towards the front and not change the date.
What's Iowa State doing for summer classes this year?
I don't know.
Well, and my question, I just want to back up for a second because I don't think I asked that very well. So the calendar here to me is all about the next year.
Correct.
Right? And the return to learn is about next year.
Yes.
And so then I think I understood you to say about remediation would be more about helping those kids that maybe didn't feel like they got what they needed out of this current year. Is that right?
It could be, so that there's going to be a gap for those kids.
Right.
Now, you got to realize
but
too.
That would be separate than something we would bake into a calendar, is that true?
Right,
Okay.
right. But you gotta realize that there are gonna be some kids that are gonna say, you want me to come into
Yeah,
summer school?
no.
They're not gonna want to.
Right, right.
But I know that, and again, we've talked about licensure, it's gonna be a little bit different if you talk about the high school versus the elementary. Right now, the elementary does some things, and that's different, that they do some summer school type of things with their younger kids. That they use some Eli dollars and they use some tutoring. I guess what I'm looking at or what I'm hearing, and again, if you want to take a look at something, we can. I just think that if we're going to if I'm going to gamble as far as what's going to happen, I would think that we would probably see something more as we come into August that might stop us from going all the way. And that's not to say it won't happen in later on in the fall or the winter, but that's why a lot of people, I think, are holding to their calendars.
What would be the latest that we could change it? I mean, what's our? So right now, if you're asking me, I'm skeptical that we're going to be coming back in person in August.
I would agree with you.
Right? I mean,
Yep.
Unless there's some immense amount of testing that's going on.
I
So
hope we're
let's
both
just-
wrong.
Right, so let's just go down that trail for a second. We're not coming back in August. Well, does that mean we want to bring the calendar up because we might as well get started on online stuff sooner? Or does that mean we want to push the calendar back thinking, hey, maybe we'll start in October? But I would like us to start thinking through where we're not waiting for the
Right.
governor's doing a great job, so don't get me wrong. But it's, at the end of the day, it's our decision what we
Right.
do, and I'd like to see us kind of take control of that and
Mhm.
say, okay, what is our plan if we can't be back together? What is our plan if we are together?
Right.
And those are really the two options, right?
And that's, when we talked today, we did a Zoom meeting with administrators, and one of the things that we talked about was, like you said, Tyler, I agree with you, I don't think that we're going to be back in August, so we better have an idea of what our plan is and how that will look, and I think it will look different than it looks right now.
Yeah.
And I guess my thoughts are, when you look at it, if you don't change anything, you're not out anything. If you start changing some things, you're going to maybe have to change the way that you're doing business as far as, like, I'll say with high school. It could be any of them, but especially with high school, there's some things that could change there, and we've talked about that. Again, I would say that right now, we would want to have a plan as far as what it would look like. It would almost be a two-tier or maybe even a three-tier plan. A two-tier plan would be if we come back and it's regular, if we come back and we cannot go, let's say, the month of August or maybe part of September, what will that look like, and what will the distance learning or the continuous learning look like? And I don't know if you can put anything into the bake this out a little bit if something would happen in towards the middle of the year.
Lindsay, I wonder if we could use the June and July remediation and get two birds with one stone, with the idea of, okay, here's how we're going to do remediation for online learning. But really, the second part of that is we're also saying, okay, we need to get the bugs worked out, that we're going to kick off in August, full online learning, and we could get some funding that helps us with the remediation project. But we got an eye towards August of, you know what, we need to have this ready to roll if this is going to be a major rollout, and we could get the kinks worked out in the remediation process with the idea of, okay, we're working with a dozen students here, let's see how that goes. Okay, now we're going to move this to 500 at the high school, and however many at the middle school.
I think that it's, to me, so not so much about whether the date changes, but just that we are ready and fully
For what
prepared
maybe, yes.
for either option to go. And so to me, it's, I'm not saying that, different dates can play a role. I just think it's a little too far out right now to know which to do, early, late, whatever. I'm in agreement with John, though, that just be ready to roll when we do.
Announcement today
Let's have the Kings lined up.
for Iowa State says, as of April 23rd, that sessions 1 and 2 of the summer will all be offered virtually. So
That's summer
the
school.
summer school.
Summer school.
Have some of them even gone to the fall as far as they're looking virtual?
Boston College actually isn't even having a fall semester. They're starting in January. That's one college, right?
They're not even going to have a classes at all.
That's just one. I mean, that's
Yeah,
one. And I don't
yeah.
exactly, but I was surprised about that. I thought, wow.
That's where I think a lot of people are falling. It's very likely that we will not be coming back in August. I hope I'm dead wrong. I hope they start to open things up and we go back to normal. But if that's the case, we will have a plan ready to go.
The way I see it, you guys know how to do in-class learning. That's not
We
off the
get that
table.
thumbs up, that's easy. We can-
Plan for it not being that.
Yep.
And get that
And
down
I think, I mean,
as much as possible.
as the country we live in, the money that's gonna be out there is, I think things are gonna change now in the next 4 months with technology on this online learning. There's businesses now putting big money into how can we make this easier, because they don't know what's gonna be coming in August. So, I mean, Zoom today, yeah, but my guess is in August, there's gonna be all sorts of new programs, new ways to do it, both the textbook side through from the state side.
Yeah.
I don't know what that looks like, but I just know we gotta be on top of it, what those changes are.
It'll be a lot more interactive too, that the kids can type questions, you
Yep.
know, as the teacher's instructing, and there just be more back and forth.
It's gonna change, I mean, it's gonna have to.
Now, I want to tell you, when we talk about remediation, the people behind me there are probably cringing because this is something that we haven't done.
Yeah.
We haven't done it on a full scale.
Yeah.
So that's not going to be that easy, but that's something that we can do and we can make happen, and we can also make sure that we're ready for what will come out in
And like
August.
John said, use it as learning.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is,
Yeah.
let's work some kinks out, and, you know, it might have some advantages for some situations down the road where you have kids that, so, another brainstorm, so, idea is, all the kids are here. Now, we've come into the, okay, we're easing out of this, now I want you to think of it, it's like having the flu. There's kids that are testing with COVID, but their symptoms are generally mild. They can work from home, they just can't be at school. And so now you got a hybrid model
Yeah.
of, we're gonna have kids at home, and rather than have them get way behind, why the heck don't we have them at least listening in and keeping up with what the teacher's saying in the assignments, versus I had to take my 14 days to meet the state requirements. Now I'm 14 days behind. If nothing else, we have all those sessions recorded, and we're pushing them out to students who, for every practical purposes, are having very few
Like symptoms.
symptoms. They're asymptomatic, but we're ready to go, and it works with the flu.
Mhm.
So people have the flu and they're still, you know, I don't feel the best, but I can still, I'm gonna be doing screen time anyway, I might as well be watching my teacher.
Or forever,
It's a good point.
health is compromised. I mean,
Yeah.
that's still gonna be an issue.
So anyway, so I'm just trying to get us ready for whatever comes our way, and if, I know it's very difficult to plan, and we're gonna be doing the best we can, but I think if we can use June, July to get some of those bugs worked out of online learning, I think that'd be well worth our time.
But I hate to say this too, this is what we do at work, right? Brainstorm the likely and the unlikely, whatever. But so far, all of our conversations have been around our students, and none of them have been around what if our teachers get sick.
Well, I'm asking,
And a good
but
number of
contracts,
them-
you got contracts.
I'm not even talking
too,
about
with
contracts,
days.
but I'm talking about people who were not able to do this. And, I don't know what substitute teaching looks like virtually. And I'm just throwing questions out. I'm not expecting answers. I'm sorry, but just questions.
No, that's fine.
Well, for that, Deb, I mean, the
What
first
do you
thing that
even-
pops
you
into
know what
my
I'm saying?
mind is have a joint agreement with other districts that
But-
if we have piggyback classes, hey, we'll be the
We have
backstop
to
for your
think about
classes
this
if
from
we're
all
using the
angles.
same
Yeah.
curriculum.
Yeah, right? it's not, you have to look all the way around this issue, and there's just a lot to it, but. Are you looking for I know this is a discussion section, but I should.
I just want to make sure that you understood what we're looking
It's
at.
just about the calendar, but we've done
No,
really good.
I mean, but are you, because I know we have a timeline, then we have a public hearing, and so were you looking for just a gut feel
I was looking for a gut feeling.
on whether or not, okay. I
Yeah,
gotcha.
this is the set, so
Okay,
the only
sorry.
time if there's actually going to be a change.
Like to
then you
start
have to
the
go through
change,
We go through the
to
public
start the
hearing.
process is what I was asking.
What does your gut feeling say?
Yeah.
I say
Yeah.
I say keep it as.
There's no reason to change it right now, but
Yeah.
I'm asking, when can we change it?
Like,
Because
when's the last
we
time?
might want to in June or July.
And we could. The thing that happens is, if you look at it and, when we scroll down, keep going, that when you start to do what we're talking about now, if we change it, then we start playing around with when are we going to have commencement and some of those type of things.
Yep.
So people, we're making it work now, but I think that people would like to, know where we're gonna be at. And it could, like I said, it could be a situation in February, we have a resurgence and we might have to do something different, or the governor would come in again. But I don't think that there's a time frame that would limit you for that.
Except how long is the process? It's public hearing in 15 days or
10 to 20 days.
10 to 20 days.
Yeah.
So within that kind of time, does that answer your question, Tara? About like, obviously we need to let people know as soon as possible
Yeah.
to prepare, but
We've
You're gonna move it
we've
to
actually
that.
talked all around it rather than the calendar is, I think you're hearing is, do we have an online education committee? Who's holding up that flag and because just like Vic did all the options for graduation, I think we need to start seriously talking about, do we have our ducks in a row
Mhm.
for online learning? Because we need to, right?
Tyler, can I say something to that?
Yep.
I think that's a really good question, and, we have not put professional learning, that has not been a priority for us. So I think that, I don't know if you all want to, do we want to take a look at our board goals, not right this minute, but think about, are we willing to say that we want to put something on hold so we can put that more towards the forefront?
Yes.
It doesn't need to be towards the forefront. I think it
No,
needs
it's in
to
the
be.
front.
Top of the list.
I didn't work that very well, Tyler, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, yes, Carrie, in my opinion, I mean, none of us anticipated this 3 months ago. But
No,
all of us are sitting
100%
here,
agree with you.
all of us are sitting here going, okay, we just need to get through these next 5 weeks or whatever it is, 6 weeks for this semester. But we're gonna be dealing with this in some way, shape, or form, like everybody said, John said, Jeff said, we're gonna be dealing with this some way, shape, or form for the next 18 months. And
No,
maybe
you're-
longer, right? And it may not be the whole next year is online, but there may be another month or two that we need to do that, or
The
situation,
second wave hits.
such situations where some students just can't or won't. And
Or
so
don't
how do
know
we
that.
serve them, right? So I'm just encouraging us that, that needs to be, I think, the number one priority right now is how do we do online learning? And
I think that I 100% agree I think we would all agree with what you're saying, Tyler, and the whole board for that matter. And I think that that's something that we need to get going on yesterday. So we do have some options of ways we can do some professional learning for our teachers that Heartland already has ready. So we will start going down that we will start more than exploring, but getting that ready.
Good.
And thinking how to push that out to our teachers.
Thank you.
How about comments? Sorry, go ahead, Carrie, I'm sorry.
That's all I was gonna say.
Any comments from any of the other administrators?
I guess as I sit here, Lindsay, and I hear, and I listen to everything, and I'm trying to listen a lot, I think the next 5 weeks we've got. I think everything you have up here, everything that's in front of us, I think we're all comfortable with Gilbert education for the next 5 weeks. I'm really excited for Vic in doing that. Ton of work. If he can get it off, pull it off, great. If he wants to do that, great. And I'd be like Tyler, I would get a committee and do it that way. But I think after that ball lands, I think you got to look at August
Be a busy summer.
and get us ready to go.
Yep. And it's not gonna be business as usual.
No, and I guess I would ask Tyler, it's kind of, I always give him a hard time because I don't know what he does. I do know what he does. He could probably share some stuff with us that, we're not in the forefront to know.
Iowa State's, doing this, and I think don't recreate the wheel. Let's find some of the best online high schools, middle schools that we can find and see what they're using, and steal the good ideas and leave the bad ones.
I wonder what student teaching looks like next year.
Well,
Maybe we could learn
Oh, they
something from
won't
those
have
young
it,
ones,
probably.
right?
I kind of envision too, and again, this is just, I think they're gonna open the schools up to the teachers next August, they just won't do it for the students. So I think teachers will be able to come in the classroom and teach, but then we're always ready to have that online broadcast from the classroom. I'm just, because meaning it's hard to do it from your home, but I do think the teachers are gonna have access by then.
Yeah, and it'll be all testing kind of thing.
That's interesting.
These waves will run through schools where we got high levels, everybody go home.
Yeah.
Okay, we're back, it's all going well. Okay, now it's not.
I mean, is that the way you see it, Tyler?
Our schools will be. you have
So
technology.
what, so,
Okay.
yeah, it's still a secret what I do, but that's. But I can tell you what my wife does. She's an immunologist, and what she says that the science is coming around is we're gonna do dance and hammer. I said, well, what's that, Gail? Dance and hammer is you start opening it up a little bit, and then cases are gonna go up and the hammer's gonna come down, and you gotta shut it down or quiet it down, right? I mean, Georgia and South Carolina are gonna open up this week, right?
Yeah.
And
So it's
There-
kind of this-
and their cases are gonna go up, and all of a sudden they're gonna go, okay, well, we gotta, right? Our country, probably rightfully so, lots of people would argue, decided to do the flatten the curve. And we were successful with that. Some ugly part, but but we have no plan for what the outcome is. We have no plan yet, we still don't, and it's really scary as a scientist, because if it was veterinary medicine, we'd have a plan. Now, some of that's euthanasia, so you can't do that on the human side. But you have a plan with, okay, you got to expose some people, right? And we're not exposed. That was the plan. But the fact is, we're not exposed. So it's going to be a dance and hammer. We're going to loosen it up, then the hammer's going to come down. We're going to loosen it up. That's why I'm saying, on the education standpoint, when the hammer comes down, we got to be back to online, and we got to have
Ready
a
to
plan
go.
for it.
Like this.
And then we can
Like
dance,
this.
and we're gonna dance, and we're gonna be all together, and then the hammer's gonna come down, or something else is gonna happen. This is COVID, this is Corona. What's to stop another one, right? We're global now, and that's why this happened.
Yeah.
So, my
Can't be
whole
surprised
point
at
on
the
the
same time.
online
Yeah.
is, I really, I appreciate everything you said, Carrie. What I would like to see is a committee. I'd like to know, Carrie, if you're leading that, that's great, because your curriculum, but we need a committee. I think it should be primarily administration and teachers, but I think we should have some outside, some folks from our community
Okay.
that are doing
That
it
specialize
at Iowa
in it.
State, right? That are already doing
Some
it.
IT folks that can help as well.
IT folks like my wife, that's what they're doing now. They're doing all online, right? And hopefully, like Andrew, like you said, it's not all that way, but we need to be prepared. And it's going to take a significant effort. It's going to take a lot of planning. And Deb, to your point, it's going to be, well, now we're in scenario A, but now we're back over here in scenario C, and we need to be prepared for those different scenarios. If teachers are here, but the students aren't, what if nobody is? What if everybody is?
Yeah.
So
And-
that's,
Yeah, fair enough. And where it's gonna give us a ton of flexibility is
Thank you.
4 weeks has created 25 million unemployed people. So there is going to be huge pressures to let people get back to business. And so we're gonna have to be able to have that on and off within the school. And it isn't gonna necessarily be government direction that we're gonna be able to say, hey, let's keep our kids safe. We're gonna go to online because it's spiking in Story County.
Yeah, and I think the last thing that I might add, and I think we could honestly, this is so helpful to me just to learn from this conversation, but I think we could go on and on. I think we have to understand that it isn't just about what we will be forced to do from a different angle, but also making sure that we are allowing for parents that have different choices than what we do. Meaning, yes, I understand the school is open. Half of the people don't feel comfortable coming back.
Right.
Just saying.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
that's what I pray, that we have that
And it helps
flexibility.
us-
We have to have that
And it helps
flexibility.
tamp it down as well, right?
Yeah.
If we have
Right.
some and don't
Right.
have some, well, we're starting to get the herd
Right.
immunity and.
Okay. Seriously, awesome. Thank you for that information. I think that was helpful.
Carrie, do you have a comment?
Yeah. Oh, did I cut somebody off? I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, as you guys were talking, you have, putting a committee like this together, if you have some ideas of people that would be interested in that, if maybe, Deb, you could collect those and those names
Yeah, sure.
and get them to me, that would be
Sure.
fantastic.
Yeah.
And I think as we collect these people, number one, they need to be available to help us and also have the experience to bring to the table. I don't think this is the time where we, how do you
don't
say it?
experiment, use.
I'm not your guy, I'm a hamburger guy.
Yeah.
Deb's your girl,
I'm not.
so, I mean, let's make sure we got the right people. And Carrie Clark, you run with this, okay?
Yeah, but I think that there's a two-pronged thing here, and I just want to kind of put this bug in your ear as well. There is that what you're talking about is kind of the structure and what can this look like. The other piece is the professional learning component for our teachers. I mean, this is a whole different ballgame, and we want that equity for all students, for that our teachers feel comfortable with that. And that is the piece, I think that was, when I first started talking, that was really the piece I was addressing, was this is different. This is put together differently, and the state is looking at that too. I mean, when they opened up the template for what this learning should look like, they made it very broad. And when we go back to being in our brick and mortar buildings, they're going to tighten that up again, because of the amount of professional learning that goes into what this should look like. So that's, I think you got to go both ways. You got to start that, and you got to start what you guys were talking with as well, because we want our teachers to feel comfortable with it, and we've got teachers in all different places with the use of technology, and that has to come into play for our kids. And how are we teaching our kids to be this kind of learner?
And that all has to happen over the summertime. And we gotta get the AAA going on this, that,
Yeah,
you know, this needs to be a priority for them, that this online learning is gonna be here this fall. What do you got for us, and what's that gonna look like?
Yeah.
I'll be sure and tell them that in my Zoom tomorrow.
Okay. I just think it's not enough on the radar.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree that to be true. Yeah.
Okay.
Nothing has moved this fast, I don't think, in this setting. Usually there's planning, and then over a year, 2, 3, 4 year period, we can then come out. It's got to move lightning speed, and that no one's used to that, I don't think, in this space.
Yeah.
Not with the internet speed we have.
So.
But there's another thing, right, is what kind of bandwidth do we have to make this hum if
Are
we're
we
doing this
increasing that?
and everything that's going?
Hold on, this
Yeah.
is a calendar discussion, and we're not talking about
Tell them
bandwidth.
what, because I just signed something, what are we
We're going
increasing?
to 1 gig per second.
Good.
So,
And that's through,
RM?
Good deal. Okay, guys, seriously,
Back on track.
let's get back on track.
Yep.
So, that was a very helpful conversation, but let's get back. D, possible extension of payment to hourly and classified non-exempt employees. So we talked about this. We had extended until, at the time we didn't know that we would be closed at the end of the year. I think there is action to be taken, I think in the next, in number 5 on the agenda.
Yeah.
There's action to be taken on. Now we know this is until the end of the year.
did we say that was till, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Is there a recommendation?
And that is in 5. When we talk about the consider the resolution amendment, yeah.
So I'm asking, what's the recommendation?
The recommendation is that we go ahead and extend that out. We pay the hourly and classified non-exempt employees. Can I go ahead though
Please.
on that? Okay, I'm not trying to skip you. And that we also look at the spring sports. I don't know if Tim's here. He was.
Okay, this is D and E.
And one of the things that we talked about was, we didn't know, like for the spring sports, we didn't know what was going to happen until she pulled the plug and everything. So we haven't had them on here, but the recommendation is that you take D and E and we go ahead and pay those. So the resolution that you're talking about is right there, Gail?
Yeah, this is basically, we just have to update it. This is the newest one with the closing of school for the rest of the year. So this is exactly what, it started out to be exactly what we approved on 4-3 at the last board meeting. So then all the yellows and the red, we'll have to update that, because that's just a continuation of what we had as a decision, but we know what the decision. The yellow is updated information based on the last decision of the governor and the proclamation. So all the yellows are new, updated. So with this, we just need the extension of the hourly. When we're talking spring sports, they have a contract. So we're basically saying we're going to honor those contracts.
Is that issued with their teaching contract, or are they two separate?
No, separate. But it's still, if you decide that you don't want that recommendation we don't want to honor those spring sports, then we have to go through a process. You have to have a hearing, you have to take action to it's a formal reduction in force is what it is. So if there's no change and you want to continue paying them, we don't do anything, but basically maybe state for clarification that they're going to be honored. If we decide, the board decides to not honor them and we want to do a reduction in force, then we, at the May meeting, it would take a hearing and then a formal action to go through the process to reduce.
This is the same, just, this is for spring, I'm just following the exact same process.
Yeah, see, that's my,
Summer.
Yeah.
yeah, see, that's my issue. Tim, going forward, I think we need to be honest with each other. If we're not gonna come to school in August, we're not gonna have football either. And we need to be responsible to the people here, the public, which we sit for. And if we don't have football, then we don't need football coaches. I think we can see that far enough out. I don't think we need to give contracts out for next year until we know for sure what we're gonna do.
We just,
I know.
So at this point next year.
Tim, do you have a comment that you'd like to make?
That's what,
we'd have to go through the process.
On Jeff's comment there, I think that's already been done, but for the spring coaches and summer coaches that have already signed contracts, and for example, the track coaches have been working since February. The soccer coaches have had open gyms, opportunities for kids to come up. So I think if they have a contract, I feel like we should pay it.
I do too.
I agree.
I do too, yep.
But I
think going
I
forward-
know where you were going, and I mean, I love sports, right? So I actually have kind of a conundrum here because I don't know that the precedent, I get it, absolutely get it for the teachers and I get it for the part-time, right? That's their source of income.
Right.
I look at extracurricular as that, it's extra. And if we're not gonna have anything and they're literally not doing anything, and Tim, tell me if I'm wrong, but I mean, everything's closed.
You're talking about for fall.
Well, yes.
Right now, sorry.
Right now. I mean, you can't do anything for track,
Go ahead,
soccer,
Tim.
baseball, softball, right?
Our facilities are closed right now, that is true. Our coaches have been in contact with our coaches, and that's our spring coaches and our summer coaches, and giving them things that they can do at home to continue to get better. And that has happened this week, and even though the spring season was shut down, I know because I'm CC'd on all of those things that the coaches send out, that they're still sending out workouts for our kids to do, and that's every one of our spring sports.
Yeah. So where my head's at, and I'm just throwing this out there, is that spring's probably done. It's
Yeah, I think we honored
But
those
going
contracts.
forward, and I'm talking even summer, is it really full pay? Or do we consider some half or something? Because it's not their primary income, it's extra, and quite honestly, until you can get together in person, it's not the
Right.
full thing, right? So I struggle with that, quite honestly, Tim, and I'm just throwing that out there. I don't know what the right answer is.
Yeah, I don't
But,
know.
but it's different. It's different than teachers, and to me, it's even different than part-time.
Right, and I understand that, I do. And I also, again, I look at the contract part of it, I look at the fact that pitchers and catchers have been working, so I know our baseball and softball coaches have both been working with our kids. And I don't want to lose people because we decided not to pay them. And other districts did, and when those openings come up in those different districts, they'll decide to go there instead of coach here. And that's probably a thing we should consider.
So I'm sorry, but you said pitchers and catchers have been working out?
No, prior to, they can start in January, so prior to the shutdown,
Yeah.
pitchers and catchers have been coming in, and then hitters came in as well.
Yeah.
And so our coaches have been working,
Yeah.
is what I'm saying.
That's kind of what you're talking about, Tim, with those spring sports. They were working with them before the season. Go
Well, I'm
ahead.
talking about baseball and softball, they have been coming in and working since January.
Mhm.
But not since March 13th.
No, they haven't.
So I'm actually okay with spring and if it's the right thing to do for summer, but
I
I
think
don't know that we set a precedent that, well, the fall, if we don't have it, you get paid full.
I can't do it.
I
I think we make your job very difficult, Tim, and I apologize.
Just talking.
This is,
Well, I
today is.
agree, there's gotta be something.
Here's what I would suggest is we have the hearings for the fall contracts that we just sent out and back up the bus on those in the event of they're conditional that that we're not shut down for COVID. We add that language to the contracts. we call Drew, get that language added to the contracts. We have the coaches sign the amendment that they understand that these contracts are not going to be executed in the event we're not able to gather for fall sports.
And I'm throwing out there, it might not be all or nothing either.
Right.
It could be
Yeah,
some-
whatever.
Because they're
preparing ahead
sending
of
stuff
time.
out and they're giving workouts that they can do at home and stuff, but I'm just saying I'm not comfortable right now going, well, it's just full pay.
So what we're looking at right now is the spring sports, right?
We're okay with all
Okay.
that.
And we're okay with
The summer,
Yes.
fall and baseball. If they've been
an hourly
working,
classified.
if they've been working, Tim, then we need to pay them.
Yeah, we're too far in on those, that's our thoughts. They work on that since the end of the last year, they're working on these sports. That's our message for fall. Our message is going to be the contracts, we're all good with the contracts, but you know, there's some kind of stipulation that there's a reduction if we don't actually have the seasons. And Tim, you can work with Lindsay to put together what you think is a fair, equitable for each of those sports, and we'll be fine with that. That at least gives us an explanation to say, yeah, we considered that, and this is why it's reduced, because we didn't have the season, but they're still working on it as if there was going to be a season and all that goes into that.
So Gil, are we looking at this resolution?
I was just gonna say, can we vote on that officially when we do like the 5B? When we talk about the continuation of payments to hourly and classified to
Yeah.
the end of the year and all that? And then can we make that like an amendment that says end spring and summer?
No, we don't have to, they're
No,
actual
no.
contracts.
Oh, okay, we
So
don't have to
leave
do
them
anything.
alone if we're not gonna make
And
any
it
changes.
falls within this wording, okay.
So, and this wording is already through extended through the school year to the end,
Yeah.
for the hourly.
Yeah, but we want it reflected in the minutes that we had this discussion and that there were
Yes.
partial hours worked, and it was the board's
Okay.
decision to leave those contracts in place.
Okay, so the summer, even though that's in the summer, that they're actually doing the work, it's okay that it was covered in our end of the year work?
So you want to include spring and summer
Yes.
with our conversation?
Yes.
Yes.
Isn't that your recommendation, Tim, spring and summer sports?
Yeah, mine would be, I believe that the money was allocated for that already, and like I said, they've been working, so I feel like they should get paid.
Okay, okay.
And we'll work with our attorney on language that we can send out, and we'll revisit the fall.
Yeah,
Which
revisit
that
the
fee will
fall.
be higher.
Going
than
forward.
I think
all the
it's clear.
compensation for these contracts together.
I think it's clear that we leave this meeting saying we will revisit in the fall. There's not been any decision made, but we want that opportunity to revisit. Yeah, yeah, okay.
And I assume expectations are for the coaches, which I assume they're doing, but to continue to reach out to the kids, as though, even though it's not a season, but just with workouts, with touching base with the kids, just as the teachers are still doing, you know, to keep in contact with these kids, keep them active, keep them doing things, keep the whole team mentality. Again, not just, like, I don't think they're doing this, but just not doing anything.
And maybe to simplify it, you know, if 50% is the right number, you just say we're doing half contracts across the board. You know,
Yeah, I mean,
if you
maybe-
think it's close, I mean, pick
Yeah,
a
I
number
mean,
that's close.
If they make a commitment to be a coach, there's got to be a value put on that.
But
If we don't have the sport, there's got to be a consideration for that too.
Yeah, and Andrew, to your point, I mean, I've made a point to my coach, and I think he did a great job with it, is keeping in contact with those kids. You think about it, right now, they need us more than they ever have before.
Yeah. And they need sports.
Good point, Tim.
Agreed.
Thank you.
Okay. So let's move on. Item, are you ready? Gail?
Or 5? Or-
Yeah, item 5. Okay. So this is where we want to consider the resolution amendment to their pandemic response. So these are the comments made before. I feel like our conversation that we had on, I thought it was April 6th, but maybe it was April 3rd, sorry. This was
Came out April 3rd, the board
Okay.
approved it April 6th.
Okay,
I'm sorry,
gotcha.
I
No, you're,
used those
that's fine.
dates.
At that time, I feel like we were having this conversation, we didn't know that the governor was going to close at the end of the year. So we were, I know it's probably going to happen, but let's do this. So, in my opinion, I think we just need to update the wording. But I don't know that I'm supposed to come right out and say
This
that.
recommendation here for this amendment includes the language of continuing the payment through the regular school year.
Mhm. Now, and I just want to make sure I'm abundantly clear, and that is also inclusive of spring and summer
No.
contracts.
So spring and summer contracts is just basically reflected in the minutes,
Oh, okay.
our
Nothing to do.
conversation.
Nothing to do
We're
with,
not changing anything.
No,
Right.
there's no changes, so
Okay,
there's
gotcha.
no action
because,
on that.
hello,
So
sorry.
we just
about
keep
that.
it as is, so we don't have to do it.
Makes sense,
We
perfect.
could make a motion that that's what we're going to do,
Yeah.
if that,
If we
to
want that
document
reflected
that.
in the
We
minutes,
don't
but it's
need
not
one,
an
though.
update to the resolution.
Shouldn't need it. Because we're not going to change anything.
It's a statement, it's just a way of making a statement, but to your point, let's go ahead with number 5, so
as long as it's in.
the, let me
Move to
see.
approve?
I'll second.
Yep, so, do we, first of all, this is part A and part B, would you like us to approve separately?
We have, just for clarity of historical purposes, I did not want to include, and I hope that's all right with you, I wanted a different resolution for the graduation,
Okay?
and I'm trying to find,
It should, yeah,
I'm trying to find my final resolution, board resolution for waive grades, yeah. Just so it didn't, so we had a separate resolution on graduation. This basically gives the board local control to determine 5055 and 5055R1, which is grades and graduation requirements. It's basically waives that whatever's needed, the local board has given the local board determines what graduation looks like and what the grades look like.
yep,
And we could have included that in the other one, but I thought it would just be more clear if we had a separate one.
So move. Second.
any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that passes, that resolution passes. The next is the paragraph 18, now this is the payment, so, that we were just talking about.
Yeah, and that's in there.
Yeah,
That's,
Done.
yep, that's five.
Yeah, personnel.
Good.
we're good? Okay, so then I think number 6, personnel, there was just one item on the list, which is normally, this would normally be in the consent agenda. But I noticed there was one.
Second.
All those, additional comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Move to adjourn.
is there a second?
Second.
Beat me again on it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm
Meeting
opposed.
is adjourned.